You are on your way to becoming a woman. I would give everything I have for you to love me, except one thing.
I dance on the graves of my many mistakes. They're cold, shiny stones. They teach me new rules. Tip top, tip, tippity top. I'm moving forward, I'm moving out. Tip top, tip, tippity tip. I'm moving forward, gonna retreat.
So hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of HOBO, a wandering podcast about cinema, and we are very happy to welcome for this episode Signe Baumane, Latvian animator, illustrator and writer, currently living and working in New York City. Hello Signe, and thank you for joining us today.
Hello, hello. I'm happy and honored to be here. And I see that we are color matched.
Yeah. yeah. Your scarf is
It was
exactly...
totally unpredicted, unplanned, but here we are.
So,
yes, I'm the only one in gray and not in...
You're balancing us out. Yes.
So before starting getting into the specifics of your works, and in particular your latest extraordinary feature film, My Love Affair with Marriage, I would like to start this conversation with a more general question. Your work as an animator is a combination of two contradicting maybe influences: the artsy Eastern European, which you grew up with in Latvia, which was still in the Soviet Union at the time, and then the funny gag-based American animation, which was introduced by Bill Plympton upon your arrival in New York City. So I would like to ask you if you can tell us something about this particular path, artistic path of yours, and how your artistic influences have contaminated each other over time.
I think that these two influences, Eastern European and American humor, are sitting on a core, you know, like I am a core and they're going on top, because, you know, I was born in Soviet Union, and you could not survive in that country one day if you did not have sense of humor, you know, and you had to have a dark sense of humor. And so there is some humor present at the works of, you know, like 𝗁ance or the 𝗙ecie 𝗃𝗃, which is another big influence. He's an illustrator, not animator, but illustrator, Lithuanian, Polish illustrator. There's like the darkness and absurdism, you know, that is underlaying in the Eastern European poster art, animation, and illustrations, you know, that influenced me as a visual artist. And then, of course, when I came to New York and I first got acquainted with the works of Bill Plympton, it was like, oh, well, humor could be, you know, dark, but it also could be in your face, you know, rather than you searching for the humor or like thinking about it, it would be more into your face. And I think that just like as a personality, you know, I easily absorb these influences, and they are not so entirely contradicting with each other, you know, like they are like kind of feeding it. Like just Bill Plympton, for example, he works on this like absurdity of everyday situations, you know, and surreal comedy, and that is what Schwankmeyer is doing as well. So it takes a normal everyday situation and brings it to level of absurdity and humor.
And so, if I understand correctly, the encounter with the papier-mâché art, which you used abundantly for the first time in Rocks in My Pocket, happened by chance, opening your work to three-dimensionality. Can you tell us how this came about and how you developed this technique from Rocks in My Pocket to your second feature film, My Love Affair with Marriage?
Well, you know, I have to say, you know, we talk about Eastern European and American influences. Italy has been crucial to my work. It's like, because like one of my longest, you know, collaborator is Christian Sensini, the composer. But also this whole paper mache thing that is really amazing thing that happened to me comes from Milan, from Italy, from fashion designer 𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃. I don't know, you say 𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃.
𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃.
𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, yes. And so what happened was that I had friends in Italy, in Milan, and they showed 𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃 my tidbit of sex, the short films about sex. And he is he's an artist. So he said, oh my God, I really like the style. And why would she be interested to come over to my store in Milan and paint this mural in a store? And I was like, yeah, I mean, and he paid, I don't know, like 10,000. I don't remember exactly, 10,000. I was like, and it had to be done in like 10 days. And I was like, yeah, for money. Of course, I never done murals. The murals like intimidate because I work on a small paper. I don't work on huge things. So, but I'm like, yeah, I do mural. And so I go to Milan, and in 10 days, working, 20 hours a day, and not knowing anything about murals and anything, I made this mural. And then 𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 said, the murals, they come and go, because now it was dedicated for Christmas. And then after Christmas, he will have to paint it over, but the more lasting thing would be, sculptures, like, can you do sculptures, like papier-mâché sculptures? And, like, I never done like sculptures, but I have done a little bit, like tiny little things. And like metal, there's like something three-dimensional, in your hands, you hold like a puffy in your hands. And he said, no, but they have to be big. They have to be your size, And I was like, okay, like you pay and I do, but I don't know how to do it. But like it unleashed in me something that I didn't know I had. It like when I'd made a little sketch of some idea and he approved, and I would go into the place where I was creating the sculptures, and these sculptures of my hands would just make them happen without me even thinking how I do it. And I thought it was so amazing. It was like an amazing experience, and he enjoyed them too. He has like 30 sculptures, and at some point when it was like 31, he said, Signe, we have to stop. My store is becoming Signe Baumane Museum, and I still want to sell clothes, But I came home and I was just like in New York, and I was like, I really want to incorporate this into my work, like the three-dimensional aspect. But in animation, like I don't know stop motion, and I think stop motion is a beast that I would have to learn another 10 years, and I don't know, I don't have time to learn. Like I want to do something now. And so I scratched my head for like 3 months, and then I thought, well, if I did three-dimensional backgrounds, and then I would draw drawings, because I know how to draw, but I would have these photographs and backgrounds. That would be that three-dimensional space, but it also would allow me to introduce elements of cinema into my work, which was before non-existent, like panoramas, parallax, zooms and pans and focus rack, that I did not use before. And I was interested in cinematic language, expanding cinematic language. So that was like an amazing twist of events, and it happened in Italy. Let me show you my studio a little bit around. Like there's this one unfinished, papier-mâché little thing that I'm working on, and I mean, maybe later I take you around the studio, like, because there's a lot to look at, I just wanted to show you a little bit of these papier-mâché sculptures, like this one.
Wow.
Yeah, like, it's still unfinished, it has like, I still have to paint it, but yeah. And you can see this is a very Eastern European, kind of mysterious and dark and strange.
Yeah. So maybe at the end of our chat, you can show us around a bit around your studio. But yes. I would like to ask you something about your latest feature film, My Love Affair with Marriage. In that film, you mix 4 different animation techniques. The one used to represent the world in which the main character Zelma's life unfolds. Another one used for Zelma's imagination. And then we have the world of biology, even animated by a different animator. And finally, the political world with its maps and other stuff. So how has this use of different techniques helped you, in this case, tell your story better?
Yeah, no, animation is a amazing medium to tell the stories, you know, because you know, these 4 techniques depicting 4 different worlds, and these 4 different worlds coexist simultaneously, like at the same time. Like like when I'm sitting here talking to you, the biology processes are happening. I cannot stop that, right? And then I am aware, even if I'm not thinking about it, I'm still aware of political maps, like where we are. You know, I am in one country, you're in another country, and where I stand politically or in relationship with each other, you know, politically. And then, of course, you know, my life is here, 3-dimensional, you know, world. And then the world of my imagination, like right now, you know, I'm just making drawings of you in my head. And so that all coexists simultaneously. And I think, I mean, but in a story, unfortunately or fortunately, you have to organize these events in sequence, because otherwise it's not a story. It would be probably VR interactive content. I don't know how to even tell a story when everything is layered on top of each other at the same time. But animation is a perfect tool to go there, you know. For example, in live action, you would, you know, introduce another element like, oh, biology, you know, and then you introduce the biology character, and then people would be taken out of the story. They would be like, they would stop and say, wait, that's different. But in animation, everything flows as one, you know. So so that is a great advantage of animation, and that was really great way to tell this particular story. Also, yes, because, you know, in my love affair is marriage, there are these singing characters, you know, so.
And one of the film's themes is how culture influences us and shapes our nature. So I would like to ask you, how do you think animation and music, which are the 2 key elements of my love affair with marriage, have the ability to influence a viewer's worldview and even shape of our social relationships?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough question, actually. You know, what is nature or nurture? You know, what is the dominant you know, force in our lives? And you know, and also, are we the puppets, or are we the, you know, do we have a free choice, right? Like, are we just biological puppets? And I think that I think that we are, you know, somewhat you know, we are constrained by biology, you know, like I cannot suddenly start growing horns, because that's not my biology. Or like longer ears, is the fuzzy hair on the ears, you know, that would not, my biology would not allow that. But I can draw it, of course. I can imagine that. I can turn into a cat if I'm in animation. And the culture also constrains us, because it teaches us how to be in the world, you know. But I think as an individual, so the film is about an individual being squeezed between biology and the culture, and then she has to make the best decisions, and then she's just closely following her, like, instructions by culture. And then the biology makes her to be a prisoner somewhat. And then only at the end, when she realizes that she has prefrontal cortex, that she has, in this space, limited space, she does have a freedom of choice. And that is where she achieves the freedom, you know. I don't know if that was your question. I probably hijacked your question, but did I answer your question?
Yes, yes. Yes,
Not
yes.
quite, not quite.
It was
Advent.
coming back to your style. Unlike many other animators, you work without storyboards. So how do you implement improvisation in your films? And can you tell us something about your peculiar writing process?
So let's start with writing. The script, you know, the both films, the script was very meticulous, you know. The script was developed and like, you know, and then I worked with my partner, �40𝗫, who is a theater director and actor. So he has experience of telling longer stories, because I'm coming from short film background. Like I know how to organize material for 10 minutes, you know. The longest film I made is like 18 minutes. So how do you organize material that is interesting for people for an hour and a half? And so he has that experience. So when I wrote 𝗁𝗃 in my pockets, he helped me to shape it in a shape that it was actually enticing to hear, you know. And it was the same as my love affair with marriage. We worked closely together. He was as a dramaturg, you know, kind of. I have a lot of like crazy and wild ideas and try this and try that, and then he was always kind of like steering this like wild imagination into like more disciplined storytelling. So that, and then it took a year to write the script for My Love Affair with Marriage, because the script, we didn't want to change it. So we had to be really committed to it. And once we recorded the actors, there's like, we did not change the script. Like we did not re-record anything. And so all the creativity of the wild imagination was coming from that improvisational process. You know, like I would open, you know, the page and I see, okay, so we have a scene and this scene is like 5 minutes. I would make small sketches, like ideas, and then we would photograph sets, you know, Sturgis would build the sets and our artist team would build the sets. And then the sets would be lit up. And then I would photograph the sets where I see where the characters are walking, what they are doing. And before I take camera in my hand, I would not know what they are doing. But when I have the camera, I'm like, okay, he's on a bed and she is walking out the door. And then there's a whole choreography and it's in my head. No, but nobody else can see it. And I take these photographs and then I bring them to this table and then I print them out and I start doing the layouts and an animation. But I do only, that process is only scene by scene. So as the time goes, you know, like for example, if we finished recording in 2017, and if I made the storyboard for the whole film in 2017, I could not change it, right? So I could not suddenly like see a movie and say, well, that was an interesting angle. I would like to try that in my film. I would have to do the way it was already committed, you know? So, and especially I'm the only animator animating all these scenes except for 𝗂𝗃 who animated the biology scenes. I don't have to communicate my crazy ideas to another artist, to another animator. So I like, in some ways it gives me freedom. But if I had to work with another animator, I would have to do storyboards. Yeah, that's a given, you know.
And like you said before, for this second feature film, you worked again with Italian composer Cristian Sensini, which also has scored Rocks in My Pocket, and which I know because he's from my region. He's from Loreto. He's from Marche. I'm in Marche now. So I met Cristian several years ago. How has your collaboration developed over these years? And how did you work specifically on My Love Affair with Marriage, where music is naturally a central element of the movie?
I think the music is central element also in Rocks in My Pockets, because in Rocks in My Pockets, there's like no sound effects except for voice and the music. And so, but you know, we can start how I first encountered Cristian's work. I had for Rocks in My Pockets, you know, I was not lucky to find a composer, and there's one composer who didn't really know how to do music for film, like scoring, and I was terribly burnt by it, and we had a deadline and we had to go. And then a friend of mine, Bill Plimpton, by the way, suggested, well, you know, I got an email yesterday from this Italian composer and he's very talented. Why don't you just email him? So I emailed Christian and I said, I really don't trust composers anymore, you know, and so I'm not gonna hire you unless I give you a 3-minute scene and you do music. And it has to be funny, because writing funny music is the hardest part. Every single, like I can write music, you know, they score for film, like like tragic, you know, but writing funny music where it's a comedy, it's harder. And so I thought it would be testing Christian and see if he can write like a music for comedy. And so I gave him a 3-minute scene which required that kind of tone. And he sent me back not just one sample, but he sent me 3 samples, like, and each was better than the other. Like, it was like really amazing. I'm like, okay, you've hired, you know, where's the contract? I'm going to sign it. And so, and then we discovered that we are like really don't like to talk to each other on Zoom, because, you know, he's in Italy, I'm in New York, that we don't like to talk to each other on a phone. We misunderstand each other like a lot, you know, because we both speak as an accent, you know. And so we started communicating with emails. And that was what worked amazingly well, you know, like I would explain my idea, and then he has time to read the email and think about it, you know, like, what does she mean? And if he has a question, he can ask it, like, and so we both very thoughtfully approached each other, you know. And so the collaboration of his on Rocks in My Pockets with Christian was astounding. I think he's like really very, very talented. And not only that, but he really knows how to tell a story in the music, which some other composers I've worked with, like they didn't, like they're composers, they're great composers, but writing music for film is a special skill and talent. And he developed it to really perfection. And so then when the time came to do the music for My Love Affair's Marriage, we had songs, 23 songs, 24 songs. So I didn't know if Christian can do songs. So I asked him, can you do songs? And he said, yeah, sure. You know, what do you have? I don't know. Am I answering too long? No?
No, it's good. It's good. It's
Yeah.
very good.
It's a good
And
story.
so,
He's very
yes.
talented. I can confirm this. I met him in 2011, so several years ago, like more than 10 years
Before
ago.
me.
Yes, before I had an event with him.
So like one testament to his talent and like amazing abilities. He's also a very versatile composer. He can compose in any style you ask him for, you know. So I sent him the lyrics for these songs, and they're like very short songs, and I wrote them in a freestyle verse, you know, like the verse that has no really discipline, you know, something is like longer, something shorter. Because, you know, what do I know? I never wrote lyrics before. And he emails me back and says, well, let me try. He says, but I don't know, maybe I will have to ask you to rewrite like the lyrics, because this is not really structured as a song. But then he took these lyrics and he composed them in like a folk jazz style, you know, that it allows him to be more flexible. And so he never asked me to rewrite any lyrics, because he was able to take my freestyle like lyrics and put them, his music, put in the music. And I was just so surprised that was like possible for him. So it is testament to his talent. But then when we had to write the last end credit song, it was like a very difficult song for me to write, because it had to encapsulate the whole film and say what the film was about, and also give the sense of future, what is ahead of the future for the character. And I like wrote 3 pages of like, you know, I was like inspired by like you know, 𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, you know, or like, you know, Stairwell to Heaven, you know, and I wrote 3 pages of like very, like a serious, like kind of image-based lyrics. And then I sent it to Christian, and Christian was like, nah, that's crap, you know, like just go back, you know, and why don't you go on the internet and check out how to write a pop song, because it had to be a pop song. And so I went to internet and I checked out how to write a pop song, you know, because it has to have a structure. And then my partner Sturgis, he was more disciplined with like measuring, you know, syllables. So we checked the syllables. We sent the song, like we finished writing it like 5 in the afternoon in Brooklyn. And we sent it off to Christian. The next morning at 7 in the morning, the song was like arrived, and it was just how you hear it in a film. So, you know, like I really, I think he's very talented. Like, for example, biology music, you know, the ancient drums, you know, and that was the idea that we developed, that in biology music has to be very different, that it cannot be like real instruments. It has to be something strange, mysterious, electrical, you know, like, what is it? What is it? And so then, you know, the idea of drums appeared, and he was able to use these percussions in such an effect that you can listen to these percussions without anything, just that piece. And you would have a feeling, you know, you have a like feeling of something ancient, powerful, electric, you know. So yeah.
And I was
Amazing.
wondering, when you work on a film for such a long time, as in the case of My Love Affair with Marriage, you may be afraid that the topics covered will become obsolete once the film is released, or that you will lose that initial urgency, maybe. But in this case, however, the themes of your movie have become even more relevant nowadays. What are your feelings on this? And I would like to ask if you, if during this long creative process, the project has changed, taken another direction compared to your initial idea?
You know, it's interesting question, because I started writing this script in September 2015, and it took a year to write it. And so in 2015, 2016, we, in this country, some of us still believe that having a woman president is possible. Like, I really thought that we will have a woman president in the United States. And so I thought my film will become irrelevant, you know, like it would be just irrelevant. And I was like, well, I just continue on, you know, because, you know, you start a project and you say, okay, you know, whatever, and you just continue on. And suddenly it turns out it is more relevant than before, you know. And that is one thing that I kind of taught me something, that as an artist, if you want to do a story and it is important to you, it will not lose importance for a while. You know, like if you are an artist here and now, there's a story that is really itching to be told, you should tell it, even if you think it's irrelevant, because it may, you don't know what the future brings. Because for me, I was really surprised that Hillary Clinton didn't become a president, and that my film became more relevant than ever, and now it is really a big subject in this country and also around the world. You know, like, what is the question? What is a woman, and why we don't value women? You know, and so anyway, so as for your other part of the question, if the project changed in any way, I think that whatever seed is it, you know, in a script, when I started writing this film, it is like a, you know, I put it a seed, you know, it is a corn. I put it in the ground, and the corn is gonna grow out of it. And I cannot make it to be a wheat. I cannot make it a daffodil. It's gonna be that it has a DNA in the script. So even I change and the circumstances change, and I do all this improvisational animation on top, you know, the script is the DNA, and it is going to preserve what is that DNA. It was like interesting when I was working on Rocks in My Pockets, And people were saying to me, like good friends were saying to me, oh, you know, your voiceover is terrible. Like it's a horrible voiceover and you should not do this voiceover. You should change something. And I'm like, well, that film was conceived as a voiceover driven film. So I planted a seed and it has to grow a certain way. Otherwise you break it, you know? So, so that is my answer to your question. So yeah, essence is the same.
And the film was partly financed through crowdfunding on Kickstarter. And in this sense, the relationship with your bakers was something essential to this project. How was it working while still having constant feedback from the community? And how did this influence the film, in your opinion, if it did, of course?
Well, you know, crowdfunding gave us freedom to start the project, you know. We didn't, like, I hear, like, a lot of my friends, animators or filmmakers, they're sitting and waiting for permission to start the project. And we were like, no, we are not going to do that. Like, you can, sometimes you wait for years before, you know, things come together for the funding. So we said we're going to do crowdfunding. So the crowdfunding allowed us to start the project and to move on. And once we had something to show, we got grants, you know, grant money, grant support. But we did, like, initially when we had the Kickstarter campaign, we had about 1,300, like 1,300 backers. And then, of course, that was a start group, you know, it was our village, you know, and then we expanded and now we have 1,600 backers, you know. So people joined in and supported through, you know, making through the years, you know, this project. And what was good about it was that very often, you know, like you say, it takes a long time to make this project. It took 7 years to make it. And when you feel that there are people impatiently waiting for you to finish the film, you feel responsibility. You also feel that the film is needed, right? It's not just gonna be, it's gonna go somewhere. It's gonna go from heart to heart. And so you feel that you have to get up in the morning, even if you don't feel it, and just, you know, keep working. And so that was like a huge influence on that. And of course, it is hard to be in touch with, like, you know, 1,600 people, you know, that is, and then also we did have time to time to do fundraising again, you know, so I would be working on animating and suddenly we say, oh, we're running out of money, we have nothing, no money. So I have to put drawings aside and connect with the backers and ask, please give us a little bit support, more support. But you know what, the great thing about it is that once we released the film in the world, there was this group of people who were impatiently waiting for it. And they were our super fans. They wanted to help us to spread the word about the film. So that was a good thing.
So thank you, Signe. That was our final question. But if you want to show us a little bit around your studio, we would be very happy.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So let's see. I hope I have enough electricity. My computer is very old and very finicky. So here's our practical table, like where we make sets right now. Of course, I don't have a new project, so we don't have new sets. But here's my partner. He has these tools, like a saw, a drill, and there is another saw, you know, and all these pieces of wood you can see here, and then you can see here. So we are like about to start production on a new film. And yeah, and so that is that. So there are more, like, some sets over there. And so here's a set that you may recognize from the film, where Zelma gets proposed. You can see faces on the trees. And here is another set from the film. You know, like, I put my hand in there so you can see size approximately. And here's my monstera. It's huge, right? It's like a jungle here. And here is the art gallery where Zelma meets that older artist. And that is also give you an idea how big it is. And there's a tree, like a paper mache. Everything is paper mache here. And here's these trees. They're made of paper. New York Times. That's the. And then here's another set. And here's my favorite set. Is the white set. You know, they remember that one. So, and you should meet Sturgis Warner, my partner.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Nice to meet you. Sorry to bother you.
Yes. Okay. So we move on because I'm afraid my batteries may end. So you can see more. Yeah, you can see more of the. Oh yeah, the cat.
Yeah, the cat.
The
That's one.
yeah, the cat house, and here is the building, the final set. Remember, and then here's another set. So, and let me bring you in a dark room where we shoot. So behind this curtain, I'm gonna take you in, and we are shooting here. It's very dark.
Yeah.
And Sturgis is gonna turn the light on. Let me plug and so
Oh,
now
wow.
yeah. Sturgis, do you want to talk a little bit?
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So so here this contraption here is hold on, what is it? This one here is where we attach camera on this one, and then we move it on a rail. I don't know if you can see the rail.
Yes.
Yeah, like that. So this is the whole setup here with the rail, and then the camera, and then you can see the set.
And
Here.
how long does it take to build a set like that?
Sturgis, how long does it take to build a set like that?
You know, a few days, I guess.
But then the paper mache takes
and
long.
then the paper mache, and then 5 coats of paint. And then to light a set like this takes about 5 hours or so,
Yeah.
you know, to get it ready for shooting, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, so you can see the lamps are very cheap lamps, and they're clip-on lights.
Yeah.
And Sturgis built that grid on top so that lights could be moved around however he needs them to move around. And then he has a dim board here where he can change the lights like that. So yeah, so that is yeah, thank you, Sturgis.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. You're very kind.
Yeah, so it's I don't even know what we're gonna do when we start making new film, where we're gonna put all these sets.
Oh yeah,
So
of course. So one very quick final question, because I was interested now watching, looking at all these practical sets you have built. Do you think that your cinema from now on will now always present this mixture of 2-dimensionality and 3-dimensionality, or would you be interested in working again on pure drone animation, like in your first short films?
yeah, no, I am totally interested working in 2D. I have you know, I develop kind of crazy ideas, and I'm like, I want to see these things move, you know, like I don't know, like the characters like that, you know. I would love to see them, you know, like little situations like that. I don't know, like I would like to see. I would like to try like a new thing. But you know, I hadn't had time to do short films. I love short films because it allows you to experiment with form, with like new things that you never like have time to develop, and you just like make a film in 6 months or like 2 months or whatever, you know. I would love to have that freedom of like, you know, just trying something out. But right now we're starting another feature film, so I guess in 7 years I try something, you know. So yeah, but I do enjoy working with the cinematic language. I like all this like cinematic language, you know, as I said, parallax and focus tracks, you know. It is like something really special, but I like also experimenting with wild ideas.
So of course we can't wait to see some new works from you, and we'll wait for the time it will required. So thank you so much, Signe, for your time and for joining us today. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much. It's an honor and great joy to talk with you. And I do hope to see you in Italy.
You are on your way to becoming a woman. I would give everything I have for you to love me, except one thing.
I dance on the graves of my many mistakes. They're cold, shiny stones. They teach me new rules. Tip top, tip, tippity top. I'm moving forward.